Alright, so welcome back to It's Him. This is the channel for women to understand themselves, to understand men, and to understand the world in general. I'm your host, Joseph Darling, and what we're going to do today is I'm going to go through the differences between men and women, especially the difference between masculine and feminine. Because there are some guys out there who are very feminine, and there are some guys there who are masculine. And then you have women who are feminine, and then you have some that are masculine. And very often people talk about that, there should be a balance between feminine and masculine. You know what? I don't agree. Men are supposed to be like 95% masculine. And then the feminine sides will come out once in a while simply because the woman needs to know that she can connect with him on a deeper level when it comes to emotional stuff. When it comes to being a man, being a leader, being masculine, and being without emotion, that's what she would like to have in general, the majority of the time. As a woman, however, what men want out of you is to be 95% feminine. And yet in the world that we live in today, because of all the burdens that are thrown in your face, the commitments, the responsibilities, the fact that you have to be superwoman to handle your career, handle your family, to have kids, to do this and that, it becomes too much. And you end up becoming this superwoman that has to be disciplined in order to also exercise and make sure she's slim and fit and blah, blah, blah. You become masculine through discipline. And the way to become more feminine is to let go. In some ways, you have to, for a short period of time, you have to discipline yourself to let go of commitments, let go of responsibilities, and start saying no to people. Once you start doing that, you're unburdening yourself from discipline and from being masculine and entering back into your feminine stage. So that's what we're going to go through today. Let's stick around so that we can learn from this. Let's see here. I want to bring this one, not that one. I want to bring this one out. All right, let's talk about this one for a second. Okay, so I've got on the screen here masculine and feminine. There's two differences. I'm going to try and go through kind of quickly, but you can see what it says there. In terms of masculinity, and I'm not talking necessarily, I am actually talking mostly about guys now. If a guy is masculine, this is how he's going to behave. He's going to be indifferent, which means that events are going to happen, and then he's going to be able to disconnect himself from those events emotionally. Let me do an example. There's a guy named Mark Gungor who's made a fantastic video, fantastic skit about how men and women are different, and he calls them men and women's brains. YouTube it, you'll find it. And he talks about, kind of in a very comical manner, he talks about how men have these boxes in their brains. Okay, so you have boxes where you put a theme or an event or something, and then he very carefully puts it back inside his box for that specific theme. And then he's going to talk about something else, and he's going to pull out another box, because he has many boxes, and then he's going to pull it out very carefully, and then he's going to put the topics and the themes in there that are according to this one thing, and then he's going to put that box carefully back in, and then whenever he needs to open another box, it's a completely different event, completely different thing. But women, however, they manage somehow to gather all of the events, everything that's happening, the past, present, future, all of their emotions into one gigantic ball of wires, and it's just bundled up together like crazy. So watch that video. It's awesome. And that perfectly explains how women care. As you can see on the feminine side, they care because of their emotions. All of the stuff are wired up together and makes women connect everything together. And men on the other side, they manage to be indifferent because they can open one box and then put one box back. Does that make sense? So that's how men are able to be indifferent when women are not able to be indifferent. And basically the whole point of this is because women have much more intense emotions than men do. If men had the same intense emotions like girls do, then he would be more and more wires and less boxes. And you want a guy to have boxes. You don't want him to be a big ball of wires that's all over the place all the time. Trust me. Which is kind of what's happening more and more these days out there. So we'll talk more about that. He's individualistic. If he's a masculine guy, he thinks about himself. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's just thinking selfishly. He's just basically thinking that, you know what, I need to put everyone else in a different box. And I'm going to think about myself right now first, because I need to take care of myself first before I take care of other people. Just like the mask that you put on in the airplane, you have to put on your mask first before you can help someone else. It's very important, and masculine men understand this. And very often it looks like they're being very selfish, and sometimes they are, but they're just being individualistic, understanding that they need to take care of themselves first before they can help their family, help society at large, whatever. Long-term results. Because men are able to put the past, they can see history, what's happened in the past. They're gonna learn from those mistakes. They can, and they know what they want to accomplish in the future. They can now go back to the now and take action. And that is what is meant by they focusing on long-term results. Because if you're emotional, like on the feminine side, then your only goal is instant results. So if you as a woman have been struggling to exercise consistently or do anything consistently, it's basically because you have so intense emotions. You don't like to do boring and mundane things. You like to be in the now. Now, being in the now, when you want long-term results, is a problem because you are not seeing the long-term results now. You want instant results and you want them now. Why? Because of your emotions. Same way with guys. If they become too emotional, they end up running after those credit cards. They end up drinking tons of alcohol, smoking drugs, all that stuff. Yet if a guy, masculine guy, wants long-term results, he knows that those things that they give him immediate gratification, he has to stay away from it because it will ruin his long-term results. So the more instant results and immediate gratification a guy is, the more feminine he is, right? And then you've got responsibility. A masculine man takes responsibility for his actions. He doesn't blame other people simply because he knows that when he blames someone else, he makes them the leader. Because if he blames, he's taking away all creative thinking for how he himself individually can change the problem. If he blames someone else, he expects them to change and to correct whatever needs to be corrected, and that creates a bigger problem because he's now made them the leader of the situation instead of himself. That's why taking responsibility as a masculine man really helps. But when you're a woman, however, things are a little bit different. It's not bad at all, but women tend to blame other people because they know inside, deep inside, that they are innocent. This is what I talk about on this channel. This is what I'm trying to bring out to the world and tell people that women are innocent. They're innocent. It's not their fault. If men had simply picked up the slack, manned up, and started taking responsibility and doing whatever needs to happen in order for them to progress in their own lives, women would naturally follow. And they would be naturally feminine because they have masculine men to follow. Women these days have to basically start being disciplined and be masculine because they have no leadership. They have no one to follow. And if they could be disciplined and masculine and do all those things and still remain long-term happy and excited and satisfied with their lives, then fantastic. But it's not like that. The more masculine a woman becomes, the more unhappy she is. Because you take away the now. You take away the emotions. The only time she feels anything as a masculine woman is if she drinks. Or she takes pills. Or she does something to be in the now. Shopping. Buying something new. All of those things is to get into the now. That's what women want. But the more masculine they are, the more problematic it becomes. Moving on. Law and order. Masculine men want law and order because that's how things work. Everything works in the world through systems. Systems. And for a system to work, it has to be in order. Let's say you're going to try and print something. I have a printer here, I can look at it, and I know that in there's tons of little small pieces of engineering and bolts and small things that makes that system work automatically. In order for us in society at large, for the world to function, there needs to be law and order. And people need to follow those laws. And masculine men understand that. The more feminine they are, the more they revolt or rebel. It's kind of a wrong word. I need to change that on the slide. But I'd rather want it to be all over the place. That is the correct way of saying it. A feminine woman is supposed to be all over the place. A woman becomes her most feminine when she is a child or when she gets drunk. Because she's social with other girls and she's just all over the place. That's when women enjoy life, is when they are all over the place, and they should be allowed to do that. And hopefully, the more feminine they become, the less they need alcohol in order to return to that state. So, you want feminine women to be all over the place as long as we've got masculine men who have law and order and make sure that women are protected as they are all over the place. Does that make sense? And lastly, well, it's not lastly, but provides and protects. Masculine men provide and protect. Why? Because that's how men function. To be honest with you, men in general, their biggest desire in life is to bring joy and happiness and true pleasure to women. That's men's deepest satisfaction and joy in life. And that is why he provides and protects. And we're talking financially now, we're talking sexually, we're talking anything that he needs to do in order to provide. And then he protects those emotions. He protects himself, of course, but he also protects his woman, his family, and his job. If he's a masculine guy, he also thinks about the world. He wants to protect the world and make sure that it's a happy place for everyone. Women, on the other hand, they are in the now, if they're feminine, and they focus on spending and nurturing to take care of others. They're not focused on getting income for themselves. That would be a masculine trait. They're focused on spending the man's money in order to care for the people that they love. And that is a fantastic way to do it. At the bottom there, it's difficult to explain this to you guys, but I'm just going to do it briefly. Watch some of those videos that are going to come eventually. Subscribe, like this video if you like what you've heard so far. Like it now, okay? Because you might not like what comes here. But I've got to explain it. And I'm just telling it straight to you, and I hope that you're okay with that. You have to be okay with this because this is the truth. Masculine and masculine men want capitalism. Okay, I'm going to say it again. Masculine men want capitalism. simply because they understand that survival of the fittest is okay. It's good. It's not only good for them, but having competition, not against women or minorities or all that stuff, but having competition against someone else who can basically fight him in the ring when it comes to finances or business or basically surviving in general. As long as there's law and order, to be able to compete in the marketplace and in business, that's one of men's passions. And not only is competition good for the market, it's good for men in general. Men love competition because it makes them stronger. It makes them motivated, and it gets them out of their own head of like just instant gratification, do whatever they want. When they've made it, they just want to compete. And that is possible in capitalism. You have to understand here as well that in capitalism, it's the market that regulates everything, not the government. So masculine men want as small governments as possible because they do not want to be controlled by the government. Big government, they're going to take control over the man. And the man doesn't like that. Why? Because a masculine man is a leader. First most, he is a leader. A leader who is disciplined about his life. A leader who wants to lead his family to the top, to a fantastic life. And the leader who wants to bring society up to the top as well. And this is where I also mentioned voluntarism, because this is what capitalism should be called. In a capitalistic society, in a pure capitalistic society, where there's very, very low taxes, how do you take care of people? How do you take care of the poor? How do you make sure that there's justice? How do you make sure that all of that? My opinion, and this is also just simple research, and also simply talking to thousands and thousands of people wherever I go. When you smile, they smile back. Have you noticed that? 95% of people out there are good, honest people who are simply trying their best to provide for themselves and their family. And that's why I believe that in a capitalistic society where there is no welfare taking care of all the minorities and everyone, there's going to be more wealth. And when there's more wealth in general, the poor also are helped at the same time. There's going to be more people volunteering, not only their money, but also their time to help the people who are less fortunate than themselves. I truly believe that that's possible. As a masculine man, this is what I can envision, and this is what I want to help men and women understand, especially the next generation. When it comes to socialism, yes, socialism is correct, but it's correct in the home. If you have kids, you want to make sure that all of them have equal opportunity and have everything equal. If you give candy to one child and not the other two, if you got 3 kids, it's wrong. Everyone should have exactly the same. And it's because it's supposed to be like that. But in the workplace, in the marketplace, if you do that to the marketplace, you end up creating this massive government who regulates and who takes control over the situation. And unfortunately, that big government requires politicians, and those politicians have way higher salaries than normal people. Why? I don't know. It's because they're making laws or something. Like, they're not smarter than the rest of us, and they've never done any business. So why should they take control over the people's money? And we're going to hope that they're going to spend it wisely? When the corporations, the massive corporations, are the ones who are basically lobbying and paying these politicians to stay in power and to get them to create laws that help the big corporations, but that really, in the end, don't help the people that much. And the biggest reason why socialism in general doesn't work, it's because of force. Sometimes you have to force your child to not climb up that tree because you know he's going to fall and hurt himself potentially. And you want to prevent that. So you force him down. Or if he's hitting his sister, you've got to force him to go in the corner and think about what he's done and apologize. Because that's what's correct. But you can't do that Or it doesn't work if you do that with men. And in the workplace and marketplace, we can't be a big mommy trying to force everyone to do what we want because we believe that they can't handle themselves, that they can't take care of themselves. People are not children. Adults are adults, and they need to be allowed to make mistakes and to learn from them and then to move on. And with socialism, when you force someone to do something, they never learn because they never feel it on their bodies. You take that child down from the tree, guess what? He'll never learn what actually happens when you fall down from that height. He will if he does fall down and hurt himself. Now, of course, you got to be wise about it. I know. But in general, I'm just explaining general principles here, and I let everyone else do what they want with it. But I hope that this has kind of clarified things. Just one last thing I want to explain is that women, when they're feminine and when they're allowed to be unburdened and don't discipline themselves too much as they are doing today, trying to compete in the marketplace, they find their happiness, their long lost happiness. They find their emotions back, their emotions that they've dig deep down in their soul. That emotion needs to be brought back again. And the only way we can do that is by unburdening you, making sure that you're not too disciplined, and if possible, finding a guy who loves the feminine aspect of you and who wants to provide, protect you, and lead you to where you want to go. That's where we want to take you. And the way that guys are becoming more and more feminine these days, we're losing leaders, people. We need men to man up, to be leaders, and to lead you to where you want to go, together with your family. So that's what this channel is about. I call it It's Him, simply because we're going to blame guys here. We're going to blame them hardcore. All right, if you want to be part of this movement of blaming guys, which is great because we're making them leaders and we're making them take responsibility, then participate by subscribing, commenting down below what you think about this philosophy, and also realize that one day you'll also look at another guy who you actually want to be with, and you'll know it's him I want to be with. That's kind of what this channel is about. So it'll be exciting to have you on this adventure, and I'll see you again tomorrow.